Welcome to Financial Ginger.
I'm Jacob Johnson, the insurance agent known for picking up his phone, but that does not matter right now because today I have one of my good friends.
Hold on. Don't tell it. Don't tell it to him. He's got to remember. Not kidding.
What? Oh,
No,
your name? No, I know your name. I'm trying to think of how to introduce you.
Yeah, the pause was
TJ.
like, it was. And then he
Who is it again?
Who is that?
It's William, right? No,
William, I know.
TJ. TJ Edwards, the man, the myth, the legend.
Yep.
What is there to say about you that hasn't already been said?
I know, right?
The menace of Salt Lake City.
No.
The roofer of roofers. Just kidding. He's not a roofer.
No. So I'm an insurance adjuster. I'm an independent insurance adjuster.
Everyone already hates you. I'm just kidding.
Well, fair enough.
Just kidding. Everyone hates me when I say I do insurance.
That's fair enough. So
just on TikTok though. But on Facebook, people are like, oh, cool. This is useful.
They hate you on TikTok?
Dude, TikTok hates everything that is related to money and finance because it's a bunch of, I shouldn't say that. But
really?
Oh yeah,
dude,
you like go on even like popular stuff. Like you'll go on like Caleb Hammer, like Financial Audit, or like Grant Cardone. He's controversial or whatnot, and it's just comments of just people being like, "Oh, this guy, you know, he's an evil landlord." Whatever. Like,
so it's just
yeah,
Chinese
there's just
propaganda.
I don't know, whatever it is. But anyways,
nice. Well, yeah, no, I've been doing it for about 6 years now, and it's been great. So
primarily public adjusting.
No, my gosh, no. Yeah, those are totally different things. So not
terrible.
A roofer, not a public adjuster, independent insurance adjuster.
Insurance adjuster. Do you primarily end up working with roofs?
Yeah, so that's just because that's the nature of how most claims are. So if you think
especially in Utah.
Yeah, you think about Utah, yeah, Brigham Young was definitely right about that. This is the place, and we're a nice little protected dome here. And so as part of our protected dome, we've got mountains here, we've got mountains there. And so we don't have a ton of wind relative to other more dangerous places. If you're on the coast, huge winds, had like storms, hurricanes.
2 tornadoes in the last 100 years.
Yeah, right. And those are legendary, right?
Yeah.
So
some are like, I had 2 last week. If you've had 2 tornadoes in the last week where you live,
then you've been told by a roofer that was true. Yeah, that's what I've been doing that for 5 years. The most common kind of claim, wind claim for your roof. Next, probably a hail claim. Probably after that, just a water leak. Just little maintenance things.
Do you primarily work with the insurance companies that are like hiring you to do stuff, or do you ever have like private people come like, hey, I need a second opinion?
Yeah, whatever.
Or both.
Yeah, both. So essentially, I guess if you're not an insurance carrier, the useful thing about me would just be a fancy estimator. Cool. So you go and you have a loss. So if you're an insurance carrier, you've got people that have skills that are in local areas. And usually what happens is they can do one or two things. They can either hire you as a staff adjuster. So they capture you and they train you exactly how they want you
their
to train.
Tools or whatever.
Yeah, their tools, their methods, everything like that. People kind of run into a bit of a problem though, is if you're an adjuster for a carrier, you end up being a little bit like that guy in The Incredibles, where he's like, we got to look out for what's the line?
We got to look out. Oh, I don't remember what it is.
Our interest? Is that what
our interest says? Starting with the shareholders. What about them, Bob?
Who's looking out for them?
Who's looking out for them, Bob?
Yeah. And so that's what happens when you have a staff adjuster. It's just over time. It's just different incentives, right? There was some scandals in the past where, they were giving bonuses to adjusters that could
deny claims.
Yeah, or find as little money as they can do as
Isn't that
possible,
terrible?
Right? So yeah, that's awful, and that's a problem. I'd say that's on one end. Then of course on the other side, you have contractors that are asking for too much. You got contractors that are charging too much.
Yeah.
Or increasing the scope of it. Maybe that's where the public adjuster conversation comes in.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, independent versus staff adjusters. We talked about that a little bit, but just thinking about, obviously this is probably something we'd get into later, but I've had both those things happen. Like I've had people that they're upset because a claim's getting denied because they had someone come by, be like, your roof's hail damaged after a storm. They rip the roof off. They're halfway through putting a new roof on, and then they're filing the insurance claim. And the insurance company's like, we never even got to see the damage. Yeah, like you have a photo, maybe you have a drone shoot that the company did before, but like we weren't able to. And most insurance companies have things to say, we are entitled to inspect the damage before it's repaired. Outside of emergent, like if your roof's actively leaking, they can cover or what, but they're not replacing the whole roof at that point. People get pissed about that. And it's like, well, think about it. They need to be able to verify that it was actually a covered loss, right? Like, is it just your roof was 30 years old?
Right. Exactly.
Right. But obviously, that's a whole thing. But
right. Yeah.
So both happen.
So if you have a mortgage on a home, it's their asset. They want to check on their asset. If the insurance company is trying to insure an asset, they have a right to be able to check on that asset. And
yeah. Yep. Same thing with car insurance.
That's why you don't let them insure your girlfriend, because then they have to check up on your girlfriend.
Definitely.
Lame joke.
That's health insurance.
That's health.
I've had a few people on there. Okay. What else should we know about independent versus staff adjusters?
Yeah,
I know you mentioned that there was like sometimes there's incentives for staff adjusters to not necessarily do the best job for you as a client.
Yeah. If you see me pulling up to do your adjustment, you
be happy.
You keep paying your tithing, man. You're very happy that TJ came around. And you like to have independent adjusters generally. They just get to be the middleman. They get to be the person that says, hey, you know, and it's not because everyone gets paid a little bit differently. Sometimes you'll have like a State Farm or you'll have a Allstate or something like that. They might pay their jobs that are done like as a hourly basis, but the most of the time they go off of a fee schedule. So the more complex a claim is, the greater time that you have to take on it. Usually it's the greater the pay and vice versa. So so if you've got a claim and you want to come up and you want to have someone adjusting it, you most of the time want to have an independent adjuster if you're a homeowner, and it makes it so that insurance carriers have a huge advantage. There's a reason that they've been doing it this way, and it gives you a huge advantage if you're a carrier, because it's like, hey, I might be a huge insurance carrier. Let's say you're like USAA. You have a ton of members in a lot of places, but you don't have a ton of overhead. You're really smart, and you don't have to have offices everywhere like Big Red, Big Blue, Big Yellow. And so you've got people in different places. You've got a lot of carriers, and you'll say, hey, I need people that are local, insured, and they're licensed and everything like that. And I want to get them, and I want to go out and get claims taken care of that we have.
So you don't have to have office and staff and 100 employees.
So for me, it's actually really hard to be like a USAA adjuster. That's something I'm really happy with, that I've been their rank 1 adjuster for 5 years here in Northern Utah. And so with USAA, at least, they hire third parties, and then they have, their own qualifications. But USAA, for them, they have to have a local state license. Or Utah, you have to have a insurance adjusting license. And then you also have to become certified in that carrier. So for USA, they have something. For State Farm, they have something. Most of the time, though, if you're really big, they like to do staff adjusters. If you're really big and you have a ton of people on staff, just hire a local guy. But for them to justify it, and all of the taxes, all the liability, all the insurance, they'll have a ton more responsibility. And they're also expensive. And so they try to limit overhead costs. It's like, okay, what would I rather do? It's like, I can either pay TJ to do 60 claims in 1 year, or it'd be more like 120 claims. And let's say that he charges me $60,000 in a year. These are just made up numbers. Yeah. Or I could have a permanent on staff, person that maybe they have work, maybe they don't, and I just have to keep him around all the time. It's like, okay, now you're talking about insurance and this and that. And so they get to pay me as a 1099. And I love
Way
that.
Better.
I love that for me, because
1099, it's where it's at.
Because I get to commit tax fraud. No, I'm kidding. No, it just means that you can have
you can write off more.
Yeah, it's I was able to ride here in a car that, those are expenses.
Yeah, it's for business.
And so that's awesome. And I can go tell people that I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
That's the most important.
You're an entrepreneur.
That's it.
Well, I'm reading not that it's super relevant to this, but about a third of the economy in the U.S. has become like gig 1099 type work.
Yeah, that was something that
which is crazy. I was reading, I'm like, wow, but it seems to be making sense, because for a lot of companies, it makes more sense for them to hire someone like you to deal with a bunch of claims rather than hiring someone. Because, dude, I was like, my wife somewhat recently, she changed jobs from one company to another, and we looked at like potentially doing COBRA benefits for health insurance.
Oh,
dude,
okay. That's crazy expensive.
Because COBRA is like 102% of the cost, because it's like a 2% administrative fee for them to continue to deal with the paperwork or something like that.
Isn't it?
So you pay 102% of the cost, which, okay, fine, it's basically 100%. But dude, we thought because her portion was like $300 or something like that a month. With the COBRA benefits, it was going to be like $1,200. $100
a month? That's crazy.
Yeah. And it was just her.
Have you considered just starting a Somali luring center? No, stop. I did it twice.
You've done it twice already.
No, I'm kidding.
Dang, tax fraud. We're talking.
Going back to tax fraud. No, okay.
We're off. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay,
but yeah, right. Like, so it's crazy because the cost of hiring a permanent staffer can be way more than just the salary you're paying them, because you have benefits and you have health insurance and you have license and insurance and all those things you have to have. And sometimes the business has to have a person with certain licenses to be able to hire someone. It's a whole thing where it's like, yeah, it's easier to just get an independent. But I've noted, and you and I've talked about this before, so kind of springing this on you, but the average claim payout is higher with an independent adjuster than with a staff adjuster. Absolutely true.
That's true. But they also know that.
Yeah. Are you able to request an independent adjuster through most insurance companies?
No.
Or does it just go with whoever they decide?
It just is who it is. However, the good news is that when are you most likely to file a claim? Usually when there's a huge natural disaster. So if you're somewhere on, like the coast or something like that, and you have a major event or you have a major hailstorm or something like that,
they're not going to have enough staff.
Exactly. They don't have enough staff. So what do? They go and they hire third party or independent people. I mean, I've seen even, local companies like Bear River Mutual have done that. That was I remember the first time that I ever had a claim. It was a wind claim. It was our first one. And then I was like, I heard about independent adjusting. Is that what you are? And then I asked more questions. And that was the beginning of a career. I went through a claim process. It's also the same way that my dad got into tow trucks. My dad owns a tow truck company.
I didn't know that.
He sold it a long time ago to my uncle. But anyways, he got into it because he got towed. And so there you go. I
just talked to the guy
claim. That's right. And that's how Jacob's OnlyFans started when he got rejected by my sister. So there you go. That's a true story.
True story. Absolutely true.
No.
Dang, you think you're funny?
No, I don't. That's the problem. No.
That's the problem. No. That's great. Okay. I'm seeing a little bit more. It's just annoying because with like certain types of auto policies, if you don't like your adjuster, you're able to like hire your own person and it forces the insurance, but it depends on the auto policy.
I should probably say that too. Yeah. And so mine is just for property. It's just for your home. That's the kind of adjusting that I'm doing. With that being said, though, I don't do auto. I could if I wanted to, but I can't be your auto and your property guy. That's very unusual.
It's a lot of skill.
Yeah, it'd be very.
It's unusual. A skill issue for TJ.
Yeah, it is. It's a CE credits problem. So so to be able to have
like, what if they come back and it's just like you got a staff adjuster, or maybe an independent adjuster, and you're just like, this isn't enough money to pay for the repairs. Like I've heard of people, or what if the claim gets denied and you want to fight it? Like I've heard some people will go public adjusters. Like what's that? Well, is that not worth getting into here?
It is probably worth getting into just a little bit. I'm not a public adjuster. I'm not an expert on public adjusting. I had a public adjusting license for about less than a month, and it went exactly like this. I was like, hey, I want to be a very skilled adjuster. I want to have more tools under my belt. And so I was like, oh, I think it's real easy. I can do some studying. I can add it as like an endorsement to my license. I got my public adjuster's license, never used it. I had it for about 2 weeks. I immediately got calls from two of the carriers that I was doing with, and they said, yo, do you have a public adjuster's license? I was like, yeah, it's just it's like an extra thing in case I need it. And they go, you will not be doing business with us as a carrier if you have a public adjuster's license. That's what I'll say about that. Because think about it. The carrier is representing them and their interests, the homeowners in the middle. And if they have a public adjuster, it means that
public adjuster is, they're fighting everyone.
There's a ton more regulations
interesting
in Utah with public adjusting. But essentially it goes like this. You hire a local expert who knows adjusting. Most of the time a contractor can do this for you, and it just goes to appraisal. So there's two different things. Appraisal is like you get to argue about the expanse of damages and the cost of damages. And that's something that anybody can do by just like talking to a contractor or something, just some
like expert. What's it going to cost you to repair this?
And so you can fight it that way if you wanted to. You could also go the public adjuster route. The public adjusters, they're going to charge you a percentage on the increase of your or the total gross of whatever your loss is. So if you're, you got $10,000 and you want to get to $100,000 and you think you've been poorly dealt with, you hire a public adjuster, they're going to take a chunk of that $100,000. Usually it's a percentage, sometimes around 10%. Every public adjuster is different. But yeah, I've talked to a couple.
But if you really have to fight your insurance company, because I had a client that actually had to do this with.
I would always go appraisal if I were them.
Yeah. Well, so here's what happened. They denied a roof claim twice. And they're like, there's no way this isn't covered. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. Your policy says wind hail. They're saying it's not a wind hail thing. They went through a very, and this was like an 8,000 square foot house. Like we're talking like 2.3, 2.4 million. Like replacing the roof was like $160,000, right? Like it was a big fancy like turrets and everything. They got a public adjuster because they got denied a couple of times. And I don't know how all that works, but public adjuster got it. Like it was like I got CC'd on an email, and there was like highlighted parts of the legal policy forms, and the public adjuster being like, by law, your policy says this, you have to do it. The insurance company literally a week later sent letters to every single policyholder in the state of Utah being like, we're updating our policy. We have changed the language about this and this and this. Because I don't think they even realized they were newer to Utah. They've only been in Utah for a couple of years, and this is a multinational company. The carrier is a like they're in Europe and Africa and stuff like that too. Like they're huge, Canada, and they've expanded in the U.S. in the last like 10, 15 years, and they've only been in Utah for like 2 or 3 years. I don't want to name them specifically, but right, I think they were probably using a generic policy form that they've used in other states, and so some of the exclusion work, and they ended up paying $160,000 for that roof. And they were pissed because they're like, we thought this was excluded. So literally every policy, everyone's renewals that have happened since that time.
What did they change? Was it like a
I don't know. It was something about, no, I don't know exactly, but it was some specific language about how the coverages worked in specific reference to wind and hail. Like it was some of the legal jargon.
Yeah, if you want to.
It was like 2 sentences, but it was crazy.
If you want something cheaper than an attorney and you're ready to go to court with it and you're ready to litigate, this is a.
If it's $160,000, it might be worth it. But
mediation.
So anyways, public adjusters are an option. You're pretty much able to always do that, but obviously it's expensive.
Yeah.
And sometimes even if you don't succeed, they still charge you.
Yeah.
I've had some that's the way they work. So
I would always go appraisal if I could. The only problem though is with appraisal, you can't argue coverage. Like you can't just turn something that's not covered into something that is covered by going to appraisal. But if something is covered and you think that it's more expansive than you thought, or if you think that you're being grossly underpriced, like if part of it is like, hey, to detach and reset solar panels, you paid for a full new roof. You gave me $800 to detach and reset solar panels. But all of a sudden you go and you talk to, I don't know, a solar company, Vivint or something like that. And they come through and they say, hey, it's going to be $16,000 to detach and reset this. And they come to a impasse and you say, I absolutely do believe this. So essentially what happens, this is not something I planned on telling you about appraisal, but I had to take lots of classes about appraisal work in case carriers wanted me to escalate it or anything like that. So I have been trained in it, but just a little bit. I haven't actually had to be a part of one yet, luckily, because they're exhausting. It's like a paid per hour thing. But anyways, and so long story short, essentially you can say, hey, I want to go to appraisal. They have a certain amount of time to respond. And then if they don't, they say, yeah, we are going to appraisal as well. If we don't want to settle with you, they'll essentially go to an umpire. And so that's called mediation. So so every policy, every reasonable policy, I think it's all HO3, HO5s policies have something that says, hey, you have a right to an appraisal.
Yeah, and 3s and 5s are your standard homeowners policies. If you live in a single family home, you probably have an HO3 or an HO5 policy.
Yeah, that's right. So that means that if you get a loss and you think it's off, like really off, and you've got the receipts to prove it, that could be a pretty good option for you. So,
but frequently a lot of companies, they're not going to just give you the money, right? A lot of companies will say, find a contractor, just do the work. Let's pay the contractor less your deductible, and then you pay the contractor deductible. At least I've seen a lot of insurance companies. This is only fringe cases. Most of the time, it's like, yeah, here's the work, unless it's like partially covered or things like that, where it's like, oh yeah, your policy specifically only will cover $1,000 of resetting your solar panels, right? Because your roof's damaged. Sure. They're not going to pay to take the solar panels off and take them out. They weren't damaged, only the roof was. And right, if your policy is only going to pay $1,000 of that, and it's going to cost you $16,000 to remove and reset, yeah, you might be eating that cost unless you find a way around it or make sure. So yeah, solar panels are a doozy to deal with.
Yeah. If I'm being honest, there's a lot of fraud associated with it, but the more that it happens, the more common that people have solar panels taken off and on all the time.
Insurance companies will get better
They're going to start standardizing it, and they're going to start to figure it out, and there'll be less fraud.
Well, that's what's happened with water and sewage backup over the last 20 years, right? Water and sewage backup wasn't really common of a coverage. And I see about 60% of denied claims in Utah are usually related to water or sewage backup, which is specifically public utilities. Like when sewage starts pouring out of the bathtub, right? That's sewage backup.
Because Jacob and his culture, sewage is brand new. That's a brand new concept. Their houses are barely getting that.
Yeah, my house has never had sewage. It's a new thing.
They've never had that.
But the reason why is a lot of insurance companies will say, well, the the damage came from the city lines, right? Their sewage backed up into your house. It's their liability. Right. And so it's becoming more common that insurance companies include water and sewage backup, but sometimes they limit it to 10,000 or 25,000, or you can choose how much you want and it's just more expensive. But for there's some carriers that the default is 0 and a lot of people don't realize it. And so it's becoming more standardized, but that's only been in like the last 10 or so years. I did actually
just read. So I did have to go insurance shopping recently, which Jacob was a huge help for me. Shout out to Jacob, the person that I'm talking to and is going to produce this. No, shout out to Jacob. He actually helped me a ton. Like way recently, like just last week, to be able to look for some insurance companies, and that was one of the things that I looked at. And so a new company that I have my carrier with is that we have automatic $10,000 sewage backup. That's huge. Sweet. It's usually a small deal, but like especially if you're here in Utah, you've got every single month you get a letter from
Dominion or whatever saying buy
our insurance,
sewage.
Buy our insurance.
And they charge like $850 a month for that.
Yeah,
and
they
it's
do.
like
and
10
it's
grand.
Less if you just add it on to.
Yeah. Most of the time, adding it to a home insurance policy, it's like $20 to $40 a year.
Right.
And it's more expansive because it's water and sewage. Sometimes those policies will only be sewage, or only be water, or only be your gas line, or only be electrical lines if you're one of the few houses in Utah that has. But anyways, so this is more expansive.
Or in your house, coal.
Yeah, exactly. True. My house, we use coal. We don't use natural gas.
That's right. And you can only start that from the gerbil he's running. So that's how we go.
No, the gerbil uses the lighter.
He has a pendable thumbs. Yeah, that's impressive. Your gerbil's much better than mine.
Okay, well, moving a little away from this more complex, I'm sure half the listeners are going to be like, I don't understand half of what just went on.
Yeah.
Tell me something that makes sense. Okay. Let's talk about the claims process. So
love it.
What actually happens from the time a home insurance, someone calls their insurance carrier and says, my roof is damaged by this hailstorm. Like, what does that look like? When do you get involved? How do you help them get it settled?
Yeah. Tell me. I am famous for the little spiel that I do. I have a little spiel that I give every single homeowner at the end of every single claim. I won't give you the full thing, but essentially it's going to go something like this. I show up, I go and do an inspection. Then I at the end of it, I know how much damage it is. I know what it's going to look like. And I'll say something like this. I'll say, hey, how you doing? Every single time that you file for a claim, you get assigned a desk adjuster. At least that's how most of the time it is for independent adjusters. If you have a staff adjuster, they are making almost all the decisions, and they will be with you in your claim from, what's the phrase, crib to grave or whatever. It seems like an insurance phrase that I would use with health insurance.
No. From cradle to grave.
So that's the beginning and end of your claims process. And you usually have one person. So you'll have one staff adjuster that deals with you for the additional losses and the code upgrades and this and that. With independents, the majority of the time is they are there for that initial inspection. And if you see him again, it's because something's gone wrong and there's some re-inspection.
So if you see TJ twice.
You see TJ twice. It's
bad.
Your fault. No, and so essentially it goes like this. It's like, hey, here are the damages that I found. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to get assigned a desk adjuster. Desk adjuster's job is to do 3 things. They're going to say, number 1, is this damage covered under your policy? Let's say it's a wind claim. They'll say, is wind damage covered under your policy? It's like, what kind of deductible do you have? $2,000 deductible is a pretty cheap, pretty standard deductible. They're going to like 1% deductibles these days. It's getting a little bit more and more expensive. And so let's say it's a flat $2,000 deductible. The next thing they'll say is, do you have any prior claims? We want to make sure that we're not paying for the same thing twice. So if they go and they look through your history and they say, hey, we want to make sure that we didn't pay for a brand new roof 8 years ago, and say, hey, if you just took the money and you cashed it out, and all of a sudden you have another roof claim, and we go up and say, hey, these shingles are only supposed to be 8 years old. Why does this look like a 30-year-old roof? They're going to want to know why. So long story short, they want to make sure they're not paying for the same thing twice. Third thing is they're going to say, or this is what I tell them. I'll say, hey, they want to say, what is the in-field adjuster recommending? At the end of the day, it is the desk adjuster job as to what they see, what they want to be covered. In Utah, I technically have the authority to bind, so I have to be very careful about what I say. So so you know how you as a insurance agent, if you are on the phone with somebody, it doesn't even have to be written, and you say,
if I tell them you're insured,
covered, you are insured, it's done. That is admissible in court. That's a big deal. So they give us the same authority with adjusting. If I were to say this thing is covered, it could be a major problem for that company. And so they've tried to limit that. So they say, hey, infield adjuster, don't say anything. don't admit to any coverages or this or that. And so you just leave that up to the desk adjuster. And so most of the time it can be a desk adjuster's ultimate call. And usually at that point, it goes back to being a staff desk adjuster. Sometimes they'll hire that out too, which I've seen isn't too uncommon. So that's the three things they're going to look at. Is this damaged? Is the damage covered under your policy? Are there prior claims? Am I paying for the same thing twice? And third, what are you recommending needs to be replaced, right? So let's say that you have a wind damaged roof. Here's how almost all the wind damaged roofs go. So if you're a contractor, this is a huge deal. You live and die by how different carriers do it. I wish it was the same with every carrier,
but it's so different with every company.
It's just not. And every carrier has a different flavor. And maybe that's why you like some carriers over another. And maybe that's a good thing too. So essentially you're going to say, for most carriers, you know, if I was trying to get a full wind replacement, I would want to make the argument to say, hey, the condition of these shingles, whether it be through age or damage or whatever, is so poor that a repair would be impractical. If you have a roof that's 5 years old, you have really new shingles, or even under 10 years, you have new shingles, and the fade that's going to happen on it is very minimal. The granule loss is going to be very minimal. It's pretty easy to make a repair to a roof like that. This is just contractor stuff, but essentially, if it's a newer roof, it's easier to make repairs, even if a shingle's completely ripped off, only because
the other shingles are going to be more pliable.
So
still.
A little construction knowledge. So so imagine this is the slope of your roof. You've got shingles, and they start by putting, in Utah, we have ice and water shield all around the bottom. It's like a really thick tarp, but it's not made out of plastic. It's like tar. And so, long story short, they have a certain amount of it. It goes about 2 feet in from the inside. So you have your eave. So more construction knowledge. So here's your roof. This is your eave. So this is your home. This is where your roof comes out. This is your eave. Anytime you have the front facing, the A facing part, that's a gable end, or they call it a rake. Right. And so that's the rake. When you're building a roof, it starts at the edges. You start at your eaves, you start with your ice and water shield, and then underneath you have felt. That's like the thick paper. Sometimes people have synthetic felt, a fancy tarp. That's awesome. That's pretty water resistant. And then they start at the bottom. Next time you see someone put on a roof, please stop and watch them and see them. They're fast. They can get a roof replaced in 1 day if they want. Yeah. So they tear everything off. It's got just the sheathing or the decking, and that's your OSB, right?
Yep. OSB.
So they do. What is it? A gang for you? OSB.
OSB. I hang it in my garage. I use it to like hang my water hoses and stuff.
Are you pro IWS or you OSB? It's like,
no, I'm OSB.
OSB gang for real. No. Anyways,
rake,
sheathing.
eave, sheath, OSB.
You've got your felt, and it starts at the bottom. And the great thing about shingles is that they're layered over one on top of the other. Mm-hmm. So you've got a certain amount of reveal. Every shingles are a little bit different. Let's say that it's like 2 feet. So you've got a couple inches of the reveal, and then you've got the bottom. That's one shingle.
Well, that's architectural shingles, right? Because aren't there also like 3 tabs?
Like about 3 foot to about, some are 12 inches, some are a little bit thicker. Okay. Width-wise, they're a little bit wider. So every shingle is a little bit different, but that's just the general idea. Gist. So they start at the bottom and they layer one over the other. If you have a wind loss where something gets lifted up and it lays back flat, you might even see a crease. It might look like there's a, pterodactyl claw marks or something like that, raptor claws.
Because we have pterodactyls. We have pterodactyls.
You're all familiar with the damages that pterodactyls do. Please call in. You can be compensated from pterodactyl claims today.
If you have pterodactyl marks in your roof, leave a comment.
And so you'll have little scratch marks, right? That'll be lifted. But your roof is usually in good condition because it can be resealed. If it's a newer roof, because it still has that little strip of tar. This is just some of the ways that the insurance people think about it. Okay. If you're a contractor, you're like, no, the whole roof, it must go. You're like, it's like, okay, fine.
But insurance don't want to pay for that.
It's like, that's just the way that, insurance companies are looking at it. So essentially, anything that is damaged by wind, it needs to be replaced. But let's say you only have a couple shingles damaged and they're only
it might be 5% of your roof or 10% of your roof.
Oh man, you've been talking to a lot of.
I've talked to too many insurance adjusters.
You refer to it as a percentage. That's interesting. Yeah. I refer to it as different slopes being damaged. Because going back to what I said,
how many slopes of the roof were damaged?
How many slopes of the roof are damaged? Because that's what I care about.
Interesting.
Replacing. So here's the way I see it. if I have a roof that's in good condition and I've got 2 shingles that are being replaced, it would be very practical to be able to say, I will replace only those shingles.
Yeah.
However, if I've got a roof that's, it's like shiny at this point, I have so much granule loss, I've got fiberglass looking at me, and all of a sudden the wind comes up and I damage a couple shingles that are noticeably bent. I have fastener damage, meaning they've been, so every one of those shingles, fastener, so a nail or sometimes a staple will help you. If they get lifted and they get pulled back down, sometimes you have fastener marks, and so sometimes I'm not ripping shingles by any means, but if they're unsealed, sometimes I have to lift them up a couple inches just to be able to see under to see if there's several fastener damage under there.
Makes you want a metal roof.
That's a different discussion. And so insurance companies love you having
they love metal roofs
until it starts leaking.
It's crazy how much they love metal roofs. Like every insurance company will extend if they're doing like roof schedules, they'll extend the life from like 12 years on the beginning of that. So instead of paying 100%, a lot of insurance companies have started changing to schedules instead of replacement costs. And so they're like, hey, after year 12, we're dropping, well, not even HCV. It's literally a schedule. It's not replacement cost. It's not actual cash value. It's a percentage. So I suppose it technically, but it's a scheduled amount. So rather than saying, hey, it appears that there's this much useful life left, 30% useful life left, we're only going to pay 30%. They say, based on the age of the roof, we're going to give you this exact percentage of the cost to replace the roof. It's a schedule. That's a couple companies have started doing that, where it's scheduled. So some companies, instead of starting that, dropping from 100% to like 86% at year 13, with a metal roof, it doesn't start till like year 23. Like it's that much of a big difference. I don't think it's that big, but that's what I've been seeing from some carriers where they're like, we love metal roofs. I'm like, why? But anyways, okay.
Hate the game, not the player.
I hate the game and the player.
Like, it gives you an advantage in a scam. It's like, okay. It's like,
we both hate insurance and we work with it all day.
No, I get it. I understand why people
But this is cool. This is useful because people are understanding how the insurance companies think about this.
Yeah. So, okay. So
this is new to me, even though I know the percentages.
Right. And so that's just with wind claims. So let's say that you've got a large roof, not,
not 8,000 square feet of a house of roof. But.
And so that's another thing. They refer to it, roofers, instead of saying 100 square foot, they just say 1 square. It's just a 10 by 10 square. And so that's what they refer to it. It's anytime they say, oh, it's 8 square, it's like, that's 800, right? Feet. So just add 2 zeros or take 1 back. It's just silly lingo that makes them feel better and you dumber. Yeah. And so, it has a practical use. And so long story short, that's how they're going to look at a wind claim. And what I've seen, every carrier is a little bit different, but for the reasonable carriers that I've done work for, it goes like this. It's like, hey, the condition of these shingles is so poor that a repair isn't practical, because if I have a 30-year-old roof, definitely over 20 years, and I put in brand new shingles just in this, it looks patchy, it's not good, it's not uniform, and you're going to have another claim next year, and then eventually you're going to have one every single time you have a wind claim, every time you have a wind season, which is every spring and every fall. And so it's like all of a sudden you're going to have a roof that's falling apart and you've got 7 claims because every single time they have a repair that's a little patchy. I hate playing the patch game.
Yeah.
That makes me
and that
better.
Makes sense.
That makes me better than everyone. No, I'm kidding. No, it's something that I prefer.
Well, it makes sense because you're going to avoid 7 other roof claims by just doing 1. But some insurance company doesn't care. They're like, okay, we'll pay for a patch because that's cheaper than a whole roof. We'll let you do that twice and then we'll non-renew you.
Well, also, I know, and it's not like if you also have a $2,000 deductible and every single time you do a roof repair,
and if a repair's only, it's less than your deductible.
Awesome. Well, we can keep doing paperwork for the end of time, and all of a sudden it looks like you have a bunch of claims and we never have to pay anything out. That's a win. So I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus.
Sometimes I'll tell people to get a roofer to go look at the roof before they file the claim, because I've had that happen.
Sure.
And if you don't file a claim, yes, those claims, even if it's a $0 payout, shows up, because if they paid you to go out and look, even though they paid you, the client, $0, if they paid TJ to go look at your roof, they're going to say, we paid TJ whatever money. We had a $487 adjusting cost. We had an $800 adjusting cost, whatever it was. And that might show up on your record. And some carriers will penalize you for a $0 payout because they had an adjusting cost that they attributed to you filing the claim. And it's stupid. It happens with auto insurance too. I've seen carriers raise rates. It's not as common in home insurance, but they absolutely can use that when they're looking at non-renewal. If you've had 2 home claims and you've had like 2 adjusting losses where it was a $0 payout, you're more likely to be non-renewed. Yeah, absolutely.
And it becomes a problem if you have like 3 under 3 years.
2 home claims under 3 years is enough for most insurance carriers to consider non-renewal. But at least if not, they put you on like a claims watch. But 3 and under 5 years most insurance companies won't take you anymore. You have to go to super high risk companies like CSE. The last person I had with them, their policy went from like $1,400-$1,500 to like $9,000 a year.
Right. So if you, okay, so let's say that you're a homeowner and you're talking to Mr. Roofer and he says there's substantial damage. You want to make sure
you want a rough idea of what the amount is.
You want to make sure that there's wind damage on at least all 4 slopes. That's not a requirement, dependent on your carrier, but if you want to make sure that it's good and damaged.
And before you file the claim, you also want to call your insurance agent and double check your policy, because some people don't realize it. Like I had someone the other day, they're like, hey, what's my roof? Is it actual cash value replacement cost? And I'm like, you've got a 30-year-old roof. We talked about this 4 years ago. I get that it's not your job to keep, but ask your agent, because I'm like, yeah, you have a 30-year-old roof. You're on an actual cash value insurance policy for your roof. You chose that intentionally because this was $1,000 cheaper than any other insurance policy you could have gotten that had replacement cost value on a 30-year. And some carriers won't accept that anymore. They just, if you're over a certain age, they automatically change you to actual cash value.
I hope they never get rid of replacement value. I mean, that'll
no, they need to keep it, but more companies I think are going to those schedules.
My job too.
Or it's actual cash value. After a certain age. Like I have one carrier that they're literally, their policy says, I think it's Foremost Star that does this, but replacement cost value, except roofs over 15 years old, actual cash value. So they put a time frame on it. Yep. It's built into the policies. It's automatically actual cash value on roof. It's over 15 years old. So every company does it a little differently. That's just some examples. Yeah. But right, they called me and said, oh, hey, I've got a roofer. There's like $3,000 of damage on my roof. They already gave me an estimate. And I'm like, okay, well,
probably do that.
Not only do you have a $2,500 deductible, so insurance will only pay $500. It's like your roof's 30 years old. You're on an actual cash value policy. We've talked about this, but it's been a couple of years. He's on a 10% extra value. So $3,000 that $2,500 deductible, they're only going to pay $300. Yeah. So it's like, is it really worth filing a claim for $300?
So if you're going to go for the full roof. Sounds like. Huh?
Yeah. Go for the full roof, or make sure you've got, know what you got insurance wise. Because if you have an actual insurance, some people do that intentionally because it's cheaper, right? They'll look at it and be like, hey, I'm getting quotes for $3,000, $4,000 a year. Why? You have an old roof. Oh, I've got an actual cash value roof policy that's only $1,600 a year. Oh, that saves me $2,000 a year. Okay, yeah, but it's going to suck when you have to spend $20,000 to replace your roof. Yeah, it's so crazy. It makes sense, but it's a game you have to play, or intentionally pay more until your roof gets damaged and then switch to another carrier.
And that's just how we're looking at wind claims.
You have to play the game.
Yeah, you want to talk about hail claims though. Everyone does it a little bit different, but essentially it's something like this. Every single time, if I'm coming up to a hail claim, I'm not even checking I'm not checking the shingles in the roof until like it's the last thing that I do. This is just me. The way that I order it is that some adjusters, when they come in, the first thing they do is they look at asphalt, they look at the asphalt shingles, and they're looking for hail marks, and then they work their way down to like exteriors. The first thing I do is I check exteriors. I check everything that
your siding.
I check siding, I check windows, I check screens, I check downspouts, I check gutters, I check everything. And so what I'm trying to do is like little pellet marks. It's respectfully to contractors. I'm not trying to say that every contractor that gets up there is trying to commit fraud or anything like that, but it's like, it's
happened enough in Utah that insurance companies are aware of it.
Well, certainly. Yeah. No one wants to lose money. Yeah. But, and so if I'm going up on a roof, the first thing I do is I spend just about as much time on the exterior as I do on the roof. It's because I'm looking for something. I have to know before I even go there. I know the date of loss. I know every single storm that's happened in Utah for the last 2 years. I know the dates of each of one of those storms. I know where they were, and I know the direction of each one of those storms. What I'm looking for is consistency. Can I give a narrative that makes sense on paper? I can't just say, oh, hail came from this direction, and then this direction, and then this direction, and then this direction.
It's like, wait, how did hail come from 4 different ways? This is 15 years of damage,
and so
or whatever.
What I'm trying to look at is like, okay, what would be susceptible? If you're putting dents in your gutter, probably an intense storm, because most of the time, you've got folded edges on it. So something had to be coming in hot to be able to put real good dents and things like that. Right. And so, downspouts, that's another one. Those show dents pretty easily. Screens, if you've got holes, it's pretty easy to tell between, hail damage and old screens. But essentially, what I'm looking is I'm a detective and I'm trying to build a story. It's like, if I had hail here, what direction would it be and what size is it? And I need to find the consistency. I need to find the size of it. And once I find that consistent story, I can get up on the roof and I know what I'm looking for and I know where I'm looking for and everything. And you should also know, because we live in the northern hemisphere, all of our most intense sun damage comes from the south. That's just where most of the time our roof is pointed towards the south. And so the slopes at the south are going to be a little bit more worn. I like to not climb up on the south side because that usually means that if I have an older roof, a little bit
you're more likely to fall or
more likely to slip. And so I like my kids. I like to go home to them. And so long story short, when I'm climbing up on top
you're
of
that proof.
Roof,
TJ loves his kids.
I know. There you go. Tell no one. and so when I'm going up, essentially, okay, so you know how, wind inspections usually take me a lot longer than hail inspections because if I'm going up and I'm looking for wind, I know that I know what wind looks like, but then I have to check for it on every single stinking slope of that home, or at least I do, because I'm trying to be good
thorough
at my job.
Yeah.
Right. And then, but if you have hail, you only need to do 4 test squares. Essentially, you go to an area that has like a 10 by 10 area, and sometimes people chalk it out.
1 square.
I focus on one direction. And that's right, 1 square. Look, he's
learning
math. He's learning math. And so we go to 1 square and I say, what's everything inside of this square that would tell me that there's hail damage? And then I go through and I circle everything that would be I circle the most convincing evidence that this had impact and that we
in
had
the right direction and the right
right
size.
Right. And so then I mark it up. Essentially, every single carrier has different requirements of what is going to be damaged or about how much damage they need to find.
Some companies start using terms like we don't cover pitting, or we don't cover marring,
right?
Or we don't cover cosmetic damage.
Yeah,
how do
cosmetic damage? There you go. So
tell me a little about that, because that's becoming really common.
That's where the expert comes in. I'll tell you some good news. I'll tell you some bad news.
Tell us the bad news and the good news.
The good news is that my first hail deployment. I'm not a service member. They call it a deployment.
That's hilarious.
It is funny. It's like I served, man, and I start twitching like I was there
for the hailstorm of 24.
24 in Killer, Texas. They were everywhere. I was replacing garage doors. And so, anyways.
Eagle Mountain.
Eagle Mountain. Jeez.
Dude, that was crazy.
I found a lot more damage in Lehigh than I did in Eagle Mountain.
Really? But apparently that hailstorm, August 24, over $1 billion of damage. Largest single claim event in the history of Utah.
That's crazy.
Anyways.
Really?
Okay. Yep.
That one?
That's what the insurance companies tell me. I've had multiple insurance companies tell me that.
Yeah, I'd have to reflect on that. That wouldn't surprise me too much. Certainly, I'd say in the last 10 years, there have been worse damages in the last 5 years, but none that reached that value. Like I would say that the flooding that happened 2 months before, a month before that.
Oh yeah, that was pretty big.
More devastating, but it didn't cause as much damage.
Well, it may have caused a lot more damage, but a lot of it may not have been covered because a lot of home insurance excludes floods.
Of course.
Right. So it may have been more damage, but it wasn't an insurance claim event.
Plus, Southern Utah, they get a mudslide, like a horrific mudslide every single year. And
it's crazy.
We act surprised by it every single year. It's like a mudslide. Oh my gosh, we haven't had
this since 6 minutes ago.
Yeah. And so anyway, so if I'm up there and I'm looking for hail damage, essentially I've got that 10 by 10 square and I'm finding as much damage as I can. If I can find a consistent story from that side, I can multiply that on 4 sides. That's a full roof replacement. So if you wanted to be nitpicky and say, I only found damage to this roof from this side or these slopes, then it would be like a 50% coverage. Or something like that. And so long story short, that's kind of what they're looking at when you're an insurance adjuster and you're on the roof. And that's the kind of arguments that we're making. When it comes to hail and you find solid hail damage, the newer the roof, the easier it is. When you're looking for wind, the older the roof is more likely to get a full roof replacement. Like, okay, here's what I mean.
That's why so many insurance companies are probably doing this change, because they recognize how much of that is the damage from the wind and how much of that is related to the fact that the roof's old. Like obviously the wind damaged it, but it's less likely to have been damaged based on the age. And that's why companies are starting to try to do this. And it's getting more common. Every carrier is doing it. I don't care what carrier
right now. They have the ACV
double your rate
and the schedule,
or do ACV.
Or they have to go, or their actuaries have to calculate and say, okay, we end up kind of just replacing old roofs. We just kind of end up doing it. So maybe we just need to factor.
But if they raise their rates, everyone leaves them to the other companies. Because I've seen that happen where there's mass exoduses away from some companies to others. So it's like, crap, we have to retain a certain amount of our clients because that's it's a nightmare.
And the people who can handle
that's okay. Screw insurance companies.
The people that can handle a loss like that and then just out of cash from their pocket, replace it, probably have nicer insurance that'll pay for it anyway. So it's kind of
it's kind of a double edge.
So the people who need to get that full
risk seeking
to have
type 2
insurance,
losses,
cover it. So anyways, my point was to say I have 2 examples in front of me. My first claim deployment was in Keller, Texas. That was the easiest hail, and I'm so glad that I started that way. Is because
every single home was obviously
every single one. Like, I'm not kidding when I say that I was replacing garage doors. It was the first time where someone asked the question, would we cover brick veneer?
Whoa! From a hailstorm.
And I'm like,
it's brick, man.
I'm like, my brother in Christ, I don't know. No. And so I was like, I'm not opening that. I
will document the damage and let them make a decision.
And if you can show me a before and after, and it's noticeable, and it's like, anyways, so it was huge. It was a huge storm. Shout out to Keller, Texas, just north of Fort Worth. Good times. Yeah. And so that was one example where it's so easy to go to hail. Like, it's like I don't even have to put chalk marks. I just get a close up of a single shingle,
and you're like, this is so obviously damaged.
It's so apparent. It was so bad that we were replacing decking.
Oh my gosh.
It was so crazy that we had contractors going up and saying, listen, this is just on me. And they would peel up a shingle. They said, listen, I've got permission from the homeowner. I'm just going to do this. They would peel it up, and then the felt would be there. They'd peel up the felt. Sometimes they didn't even have to peel up the felt.
You would see
golf ball sized dum. And so that was so easy.
Oh my gosh.
Here's the other example.
Great deployment. Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service. Shaky hands. And so the other side of it would be this. I didn't experience this, luckily. Good friend of mine, he'll go nameless, but essentially here's what his experience was. He goes up and it's for a reinspection, so it's already a little bit skeptical.
You saw him twice.
You saw him twice, and so it's like you don't want to have a reinspection, because then they start getting suspicious and they start getting extra attention. And so he goes up and he's looking around. He's like, yeah, I'm not seeing a lot of damage. And the contractor goes up with him. There was actually 2 of them. And he's looking around. And he's like, man, I didn't see any, damages from hail or anything before. And so they're doing an inspection. And then all of a sudden, wouldn't you know, it's like a golf ball size hail. All of a sudden, a couple happen. And then he's like, oh, look at this side. And then he's like looking a little bit closer. He's like, oh, wow, that's a significant dent. And he looks a little bit closer, and then he finds that the granules aren't pushed in. They're scraped. And so if you look closely in it, if you have hail, all of a sudden one strike, just like boom,
it's going to have impact granules.
It's going to push it. For the most part, it's going to push it in. But if you've got like a hammer or something like that, or you're scraping, or if you're touching it with your fingers too much or something like that, all of a sudden it turns to dust. The granules, they're just little rocks, right? And so all of a sudden you start to get some damage. And if it's just wear and tear, then you might see fiberglass underneath. He's looking a little bit closer, and it just looks like someone took a hammer and then they spun it. They just kind of twisted it, like they were just turning their heel into it, right? And so he's like, And so he looks a little bit closer. He documents it. He wraps it up. He makes his little notes. By the way, whenever anyone asks me what I do, I say I'm a chalk artist, because anytime I go up on a roof, I have to make marks on your roof. They always come off with wind and water. Please don't be concerned. I've had people get very angry thinking I was like vandalizing and like putting graffiti on their roof. It's like, it's just chalk. It'll be over in a week. If it rains, it's instantly gone. I promise I'm not hurting. I've seen some pretty angry people come in pretty hot.
Jeez.
But anyways. So I'm on there and I'm looking at the roof, and not me, sorry, my buddy's looking at the roof, and he's like, this is a little suspicious, but I'll document it. This seems like really serious damage. I'm surprised I don't see more of it everywhere. And then you don't find.
That's the way hailstorms work.
You don't find consistencies. Like, I don't find golf ball size hail damage to the gutters. I don't find it in the screens. I don't find it to the downspouts. I don't find it to windows, things like that.
You don't find it to other parts of the roof.
We just refer to it as soft metals. A great tell will be if you have those little
soft
vents.
Metals.
Yeah, those little soft metals. It's called a turtle vent, right? It's just people don't like them. They're getting rid of them. People love ridge line vents, ridge cap. They love it. They're kind of going towards that. I'm a big fan of it too, but I don't think turtle vents are ugly by any means, especially since you can color them whatever you like. And
turtle vents.
So if you look up a photo of turtle vents, just super common ventilation that happens in your attic. Those are usually made of metal. Most of the time they're plastic these days, unfortunately. But if you've got a soft metal, there will be little dents. And so you can see those little dents. And one of the ways that I can make the dents pop out, it's really hard to get an angle. The lighting has to be perfect. So how do I do it? I take the flat side of a Crayola chalk, and I just scrape the side of it, and it leaves a perfect circle of where it is. And so chalk is my best friend. And so sponsored by Crayola. No, I'm not sponsored by Crayola. Please,
Crayola, sponsor this man.
Buy me out. I am willing to be sold. And so, long story short,
just gonna get a bucket of chalk.
I know. I have to say.
You use it all in a week.
I have to say the name every time up. It's like, and this inspection is
brought to you by Crayola.
It's like,
dude, you should videotape an inspection and put it on YouTube. That'd be so fascinating.
I know. It'd be great for the lawyers. Not so foolish. No. And so, okay. So I'm looking up there, and he's up there. He's doing that inspection, and he starts to come down, and he's like, man, okay. The contractor's very courteous, hold the ladder up top. Another one holds it at the bottom. He gets on the ladder. He starts to go down. He gets to the bottom, and then he looks up at the contractor coming down. The dummy put in his shoes. I don't know why you would, if you're going to commit a crime, I don't know why you would do it while the adjuster needed to be there, but
oh no,
I'm not a good criminal, so I wouldn't know. And so he comes down and he looks up, and he has the bottom third of a golf ball chopped perfectly in half and then stuck on the underside of his boot. Rare situation. And then everywhere he was walking around, he was just like, oh yeah, I think there's damage. Looking up, not distracting. All of a sudden, boom, rubbing his heel into it. Rubbing the ball of his foot.
Dude, that makes me so angry.
And anyways, not good criminal. It was pretty easy to get caught. Homeowner ended up suing him for damages. Whole thing got cost, and then it was subrogated to say, okay, here's what the damages are. Our insurance company is going to cover you. And then they went after
the contractor's insurance.
And as soon as he went, he saw it coming down, he goes,
oh my gosh,
click, didn't even know. He took a photo of it. He had evidence of it after coming down.
Yep.
So pretty incredible.
Speaking of that, when you get any contractor to work on your property, obviously an insurance company is going to make sure their people have that. But if you have anyone come into your house for any reason, any work, ask them if they have insurance. Ask them if they're licensed, right? Like get a copy of it, get the license number, get the insurance company. Yeah. Like I've had so many situations where someone's like, oh, someone didn't do the work right, damage something, and now they ghost me. And there's no, like, what do you do? It's like,
just make sure you
call their insurance, you know?
Trust them.
So yeah, make sure you get good referrals, but also like verify people are licensed and insured.
Yeah. And
double check their Doppel license. Just ask and get it. Unless obviously if your insurance company's doing it, they're going to verify all that.
Well, that's a good opportunity for me to talk to Recoverable Depreciation.
Yes. Recoverable Depreciation.
Because Recoverable Depreciation is going to be huge when it comes to working with a contractor.
Huge.
It's going to be huge.
It's going to be great. It's going to be beautiful. Nothing better.
We love it. Recoverable Depreciation. Others, they don't have it. They need it. We can get it.
We can get it.
Anyways, and so essentially what's going to happen is they're going to say, hey, so this is the way that I would explain it to the homeowner. I would say, hey, buddy, you've got, let's say it's a full roof replacement. Let's say we have
20 grand.
Let's say it's 20 grand. Let's say they've got a $2,000 deductible. I'm going to say, hey, you've got $20,000 worth of damages. I'm going to go up and write an estimate. I'm going to go write a narrative to say, hey, this is consistent with the storm data that I received. It's consistent with on the ground, on the elevations. It's consistent with the damages that I see in the roof, and each 10 by 10 square, if it's hail, has this damage. Mm-hmm. Or if it's a wind claim, I'm going to say, hey, this is a clear argument where these shingles are in poor condition and a repair would not be practical. Yeah. And so we need to replace this whole slope. Do I find wind damage on all my slopes here? And so it's a super complicated roof. It's kind of difficult to have a full roof replacement on wind. But anyways, and so let's say that it's a simple hip roof. It means it has 4 sides.
Yeah, 4 sides. I know hip.
There you go.
Hip, gable,
He's
mansard.
OSB.
OSB.
I know hips. Me and hip gang. Me and all my homies, we hate gables. Like we all about hips.
Everybody wants a hip roof. No one wants a gable roof.
And so let's say that it's the recommendations that I make. It's not a guarantee of coverage, but this is usually what I tell them. It's like, hey, listen, I'm at the end of the day, they can decide whatever they want. They do rely on my recommendations. Said for me, at least the record that I have, it's more than 95% of the time, they're going to do what I ask them to do, how I tell them to do it. And that's just something that I'm really proud of with it comes to reputation with a carrier, that you make sure that you're only recommending reasonable things and you're recommending all of it. We owe you every penny and not a penny more.
Yeah.
And so you want to make sure you're getting the full value, and that's what a good adjuster does. And so long story short, they're going to say, how many times have I said long story short, by the way? Is that just a nervous
17.
tick
We'll make a
it's not long story
compilation.
Short. Long story actually longer.
Dude, I'm going to make a compilation.
I know.
You know me, I will.
That's perfect. And so what happens next is I would say, hey, we've got a $20,000 loss. We've got a $2,000 deductible. That means they're going to say, hey, we owe you $18,000. Okay. We're going to, and by the way, there's no check being given to the contractor. Please, little old ladies, you've had insurance your like whole life. You've been with a reliable company. You've been diligently paying. And all of a sudden people come out and they go, where should I send my deductible check to? It's like, please don't do that. The majority of the time, what they're going to do is they're going to come out and they're going to say, hey, your expenses are X. Just because you have a claim doesn't mean that you have to write a check for a deductible. That's what people think. It's like, hey, I paid the fine of a deductible and then I get the claim. It's not how it works.
No.
They come out.
They just pay you the deductible. They pay you less the deductible.
Exactly. So they're just going to say, hey, we found $20,000 worth of damages. You have a $2,000 deductible in this scenario. We owe you $18,000. Because
they're not going to give you that all, though.
They're not going to just hand you that money. They're not going to write you 18 grand. Sure hope you spend this in the right, appropriate way. Wink, right? And then instead, what they're going to say is they're going to say, usually what happens is it's going to be depreciated according to the age of the roof. So if you have a new roof, you're going to get a lot of the $18,000 up front and only have like a couple $1,000s on the back half. Yeah. If you've got a really old roof, they're probably only going to give you a couple $1,000 up front.
I had someone got like $2,000 the other day.
Half. Yeah, in $2,000 on the upfront.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
On a $23,000 replacement.
Right.
It was very little because it was a really old roof.
This is where you get to learn about recoverable depreciation.
Recoverable depreciation.
ACV.
Take notes.
He's not Team ACV. He's Team OSB.
I'm Team OSB.
Too many acronyms, and so
those aren't even related.
I know. There are too many acronyms. You're talking to a guy named TJ, buddy.
Yeah.
And so, long story short, they're going to have the total amount for you, and they're going to say, "Hey, here's the 20." It's like
here's the first portion.
We don't just write you a check for $20,000.
Yeah.
Here's the
portion.
Let's say that it's like a couple years old. Let's say they give you $8,000 up front, and then they're going to hold $10,000 back. They're going to say, "Okay, here's how the deal goes. We believe you. We believe that this is covered. We've seen his recommendations. We believe him. We see your prior claims. We know that we're not paying for the same thing twice. Yep. And we see that wind or hail is covered on this policy. Here you go. Here's $8,000 up front. Here's what you're going to do with that.
Go get it repaired.
You are going to find a contractor. You're going to hire that contractor. You're going to order materials. You're going to do everything that we've approved you to get done. What do you need to get done? We will spell it out for you in an estimate that I have come up with.
Oh, wow.
That I have written out that says, this is how much you need in square footage of shingles or in squares.
Yeah.
And this is how much you need in felt. This is exactly how much you're going to need. That's why I like roof measurements. Even when I go up there and I do roof measurements, I'm always just backing up with satellites and those calculations I've done. Wow. And it's pretty cheap, guys. I can get roof calculations within 24 hours for like $18 of your home.
Wow.
I know. I have your secret information. I know exactly how big your roof is. Don't try to lie about it in church.
Yeah.
And so essentially they're going to say, hey, we've got this much. We've got this square footage. This is what you need to get done. Here's exactly how to get a roof replacement done. And they're going to say, you have this quality of shingle. I'm an expert at knowing what kind of shingle is what. And they know exactly the price. And it's not just like, oh, all the state of Utah is this. Every single time you're around a major city, which Bountiful is considered a major city.
Oh, geez.
And so they have you locked down as to what the price is, what's reasonable in your area, and with the price per square footage and the quality of it, et cetera, et cetera. So it's going to look like an estimate. It's going to look like something, if you were getting a bid from a contractor, it would break everything down. And then it would tell you how per foot or per square something would cost. And so you've got every single piece of that. And that's what your estimate is. So it's a perfect breakdown of the $20,000 claim that you have. And then it's going to break down at the end, minus this is your deductible, and here's how much you're getting up front. Here's how much we're having on the back half. So this is what I say to Mr. Homeowner. I say, this is where you go contractor shopping. And then when that's all completed, you're going to take this amount and you're going to go to whatever carrier that you have. You're going to go to Mr. Insurance Carrier and you said, hey, you gave me $8,000. I did it. I have my proof. Here's a picture of the roof, or here's a picture of my invoice that I got from Mr. Contractor. let's say that, he comes out and he says, yeah, this is a $20,000 roof. I did it for exactly $20,001. They say, awesome. Here's my proof that I had this whole roof replaced for $20,001. And so they're going to come in, they're going to say, awesome. Thank you so much for doing that. Here's the rest of the money that I promised you from the very beginning that I would give you. And now, minus the price of your deductible, I have compensated you $20,001. If you need to adjust the price for little things, minus your deductible, you're being compensated because it's a replacement value property policy. You're being compensated for the exact dollar amount of that
even
loss.
though it was slightly above that 20,000.
Sure, if it's reasonable.
Okay,
that's called indemnity.
I've had people where they're like,
if you have a good carrier like the ones I work for,
well, they'll be like, oh, well, I want to upgrade my bathroom after the damage.
Yes.
Oh, I don't want the old shingles. I want to upgrade my shingles. Like, well, what if you spend an extra $4,000 on shingles than what they allot for?
That's a great question.
What happens there? And that probably needs to be our last question because they're going to get mad at me soon.
Oh, shoot. Sorry. Indemnity means to be compensated or indemnified to the exact value on a property or loss or covered structure. It just means that they're going to compensate you for that exact dollar amount. So if it's $20,000 loss and it ends up being $20,001, that's $20,001.
They're going to pay that.
Exactly, minus your deductible. So essentially, they're going to look at it and they're going to say, okay, this is what you're entitled to. I'll give you that full amount. Once you have that full amount, so I just lost my train of thought. Okay, so indemnity.
Once you have that full amount. So are you considered indemnified?
Do you want me to talk about contractors first, about what you want to do, or do you want to talk about supplements?
Do that, and then we can do supplement.
Okay. I'll say this. Okay, so then it becomes you, Mr. Homeowner's time to hire a contractor. Mr. Contractor, here's what I do. I can't just say, as an independent adjuster, you need to use my guy and then go and get a kickback from him. That would be illegal.
That's illegal.
You can make recommendations as an independent adjuster to say, hey, listen, these are some good contractors that I know.
I usually give people 3 options. Whenever anyone asks me for anything, I say, here's 3.
If they ask me for it, I give them 3 just to cover myself. I can just give them 1. It just becomes suspicious. Because it's like, if I'm only recommending 1 and a
lot of times people's insurance companies will recommend some too. Like Bear River has a Bear Care list, and Safeco has a preferred provider list.
Some carriers will literally contract with contractors and say, you have a water loss, you got to use ServPro, you've got to use mitigation. By the way, you have a right as a homeowner. You can hire any contractor that you want. Make sure you trust them. Make sure that they are good
and licensed and insured.
Yeah. And Team OSB. No,
yes, they better like OSB.
And so, long story short, they're going to say, now is your time to go and hire Mr. Contractor. Usually when it comes to roofs, there's so many contractors. It's so easy. They don't usually have a recommended one. Some do. What I usually say is, hey, here's a local company. If they ask me, here's a local company. They're great. Go and bid them out. Here's why I say go and get multiple bids.
Always get
multiple bids. And here's why. Let's say that I've got $18,000 that I can work with. It's a $20,000 roof. I know that I'm going to pay $2,000 out of my pocket. And I go to Mr. Jose's Roofing. And I go and I get one of TJ's contracts or whatever. It's TJ's recommended contractors or the carrier's recommended contractors. And they say, hey, I got a bid from him. He says he can do the full roof. He says that he'll do the exact kind and quality, and he can do it for $18,001, right? And then let's say Jose's Roofing comes along, and Jose's Roofing comes along, and they say, hey, I can do this whole roof for $12,000. I can do it for $10,000. And they start getting into a race to the bottom, okay? Let's say that you end up going with Jose's Roofing, and you end up getting a full roof replacement, and he comes in and he says, okay, you get the full roof replacement and you've got $12,000 worth of roof bill in front of you. You've got an invoice that says, I did the roof and it was $12,000. They're obviously cutting corners somewhere, whether it be the quality of your shingles.
No, but they're only going to reimburse you.
Workers that are coming from Jose's Roofing. No, I'm kidding. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Please leave that in.
We're going to get so much flack for this.
And so essentially what's going to happen is he's going to say, hey, we've got contractors here. We've hired them. We did the work. It's $12,000. Okay. What is the carrier going to do if you go and you say, hey, I got that full roof replacement you told me, and I know how you told me that I should go and get it done, and it was going to cost $20,000. Guess what? I got it done for $12,000. What's the carrier going to do, Jacob?
They're going to re-inspect the roof?
No, they're going to go, oh, thank you, Mr. Homeowner. You're the best. We thought it was going to be $20,000. You just saved us $8,000. And with a $2,000 deductible, you just saved us $10,000. Thank you for being such a good
They're only going to pay you. If they already paid you $8,000 on a $12,000, they're only going to pay you $2,000 more.
That's why I was talking to you about indemnity. You are going to be compensated for what it cost you. And if so here's my recommendation. You don't want a contractor that's going to blow you out of the water and get, more than what you're entitled to, of course. But if you have an amount and you want to get multiple bids, do not have the contractors get into a race to the bottom, because all they're doing is cutting corners. They're probably getting you a lower quality shingle. They're probably getting you lower quality labor. They're probably getting you slower time frames. They're probably doing this or that. What you want is to make sure that you're utilizing the full value of the loss. You're entitled to it. We already made an estimate. We think it's going to cost this much.
And insurance companies
use the full
Some people
amount.
are like, oh, if the claim is smaller, it's not going to impact my rates as much. Yeah. No, having a claim is a claim.
Yeah.
You're not going to be penalized more for having a $10,000 claim versus a $20,000 claim. That's right. Insurance companies don't care. They just see you've had a claim. That's a risk factor. They don't care about the amount, usually.
Indemnity is your best
Indemnity is indemnity.
Indemnity is indemnity. And so here's the recommendation that I go with. Get multiple bids. That's fantastic. Make sure that you're using some. So instead of getting to a race to the bottom, what I tell people is I say, get into a quality war. If you want to have someone do a job, tell me why I should go with you. Make sure I have the best warranty. Am I getting the best shingle for my money's worth? Am I getting something? Now, with that being said, though, I got to cover myself a little bit. We're going to talk about upgrades real quick.
Yes.
If you want to do a major upgrade, like let's say you have a standard 30-year asphalt shingle and you want to get to a metal roof, you want to get to a roof like I have, a membrane roof, and you have a flat roof or something like that, or you want to go over the top and you want to get a concrete or a clay. Or a ceramic roof over the top. You just love the terracotta warrior on your roof, right? And so let's say that that's the kind of shingle that you want. The difference is what you have to pay out of pocket. It makes it a little bit difficult to do the adjustment on the back half, because essentially they're going to say, hey, we gave you $20,000.
We think it was costing this much.
New metal roof ended up costing you $60,000. It's like, yeah, okay, we'll compensate you for the rest of the half, but you had a huge upgrade here. So we'll still compensate you for the estimate. You did all the work, as long as there's, as long as they know that you're paying the out of pocket difference. Of course, like a claim that I just had, which led to me having to do some insurance shopping with Jacob, is to say like, I had a leak in my laundry room that was from the bathroom down to the laundry room. It's like any upgrades that I have to pay out of pocket for. But that doesn't mean that, I get to have the
insurance pay for them,
or whatever, and extend it out that way. And so if I had a lower quality vanity, I get the higher quality cabinet or something like that. That'd be something I had to pay out of pocket, which I did. I had to pay a lot of it out of pocket. I was undercompensated. Don't get me started on that. I just had a claim, which is why I had to go I had to go shopping again, because I had 3 claims in 5 years, which is why I went to my man Jacob over here.
Yeah, we found some options. I was actually really surprised with the options I found.
Very good.
You ended up getting a slightly better, a little bit better of a deal, which was great. I even told you, I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Give you a shout out, or is there anything you wanted to ask me first before I? No, that was it. That was everything.
Awesome. I do want to build up Jacob here. So we do go back. We're friends in the mission. We served in Wellington, New Zealand. You didn't need to know that, but I just wanted to say he's a good guy.
That's why I wear the green.
And so is that
yeah, that's Ponamu I got.
Nephrite? Nice. I figured that was an eye patch. Can you see that in the camera?
It's Ponamu, Jade.
Look, it looks perfectly like an eye patch.
No, my friend Dread made it. His name is Dread. His name's Dread.
Nice. Like the comic book, or Dread like the fear?
Like dreadlocks. Yeah, no, Dread like fear.
Dread like the lock.
But yeah, no. His wife joined.
Dread like the lock.
Dreadlocks.
You are technically correct. That is correct. I'm not going to correct that. Anyways, and so we served in New Zealand together. He's been a reliable guy for me. I always get additional quotes. Ended up just finding whoever's cheaper. Obviously, we know a little extra something about it. Don't always just go with the cheapest. Don't always go with the cheapest. Having the cheapest insurance is what I always tell people. Going with the cheapest insurance is always the best option if you never have a claim. If you do, you want to make sure you have a good one. And I'm the guy that hopefully you get pulling up in his white truck to come and do that inspection for you. But Yeah, big fan of Jacob. He took care of me and my family, and that makes a huge difference. And
we bought meat together. We bought cows together.
Yes, let's talk about our commonality, our meat.
Oh, gosh. I don't even know how to stop.
That's on me. It's not his fault. He invited me into his house, and I ruined it. Don't blame him.
It's great.
No,
It's great. I hope people really like this. Yeah, I just want to thank you for being on. This has been awesome. If you want to share contact info, like if someone's watching this and like, oh, I had a claim and I want to get a secondary thought, like, I don't know.
You want to use me?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. If you want to use TJ for a roof inspection,
I'll give you my business line. I'm not going to give you social media. I'm not that. I'm like the answer.
Yeah, whatever you want. No big deal.
Here's my phone number, 801-381-7513. If you want to call me, you want to get a second opinion. I can certainly help you out, but it'd be a personal favor from one friend to another, just because Jacob's my good friend. If I want to help it out, this isn't how I do my business. I'm doing plenty on the side.
Yeah, say the business is done.
If you want to just use me as an expert, that's totally fine.
And if you're an insurance carrier, he's your guy.
Most of the time, you already have a third.
Yeah, they already know you are.
Go through and hire me, but no, I'm good at what I do, and I take good pride. I make sure that every single time I leave, I take that time and I give that 5-10 minute spiel so that they feel confident and they know that their next decision, if it gets, it's just,
that's all we want. Yeah, we want people to have knowledge.
It drives me crazy
because they don't know.
It drives me crazy when you've got a little lady, if it's USAA, they're a veteran, their husband, has several medals on the wall or whatever. And I go over there and they've been a loyal paying customer for years and years and years. USAA does their job. They cover a roof. I go out and do an inspection. We absolutely nail it. I make sure they're getting taken care of, they're well informed, and they make one bad decision by just using whatever return missionary knocked on their door, who's a great guy. We love our return missionaries here, but they're a salesman. They're not a roofer. Yeah. They end up going with them. They have a bad experience with them or something. And then all of a sudden the whole process is totally ruined because all of a sudden they've been loyal for 30 years and this is their only experience that they like really have with that carrier. And it drives me crazy. So if I can direct them towards making a better decision with contractors and understanding how to get your money on the back half and make their life easier, they would love that. And in the long run, for insurance carriers that are really in it for the long run, that's important to them too.
Yeah, they want good adjusters that are going to educate people, because that's I tell people all the time. It's like, yeah, you can get insurance. There's a million people you can get insurance from. Mm-hmm. I'm one of them, but I want you to be educated. And I have some people that are like, I know exactly what I want. Here's my old policy. Here's exactly things. I don't want this. I don't want, like, they'll tell me, I don't want this. I don't want this. I don't want this. I don't want this. Everyone tells me to get this and this. I don't want it. They'll have liability only on $100,000 truck that's brand new. And they're like, are you kidding me? You want liability or whatever? They're like,
plan on going down with that truck.
Exactly. Whatever it is, right? It's like, okay, fine. I'm fine to help people like that. They're just price shopping. Some people, it's like, hey, I'm buying insurance for the first time. I have no idea I've never done home insurance before, right? Like, I like taking the time to educate people, especially it's way more important when there's a claim happening, but I appreciate they do. That's why I wanted you on, because I knew you'd educate people. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. You're awesome, TJ.
Good time, Jacob. You're the man.
You're the man.
All right.